paper thin skin held up longer than I was falling.
Welcome to Center Stage, the documentary podcast. Each week, our group of intrepid researchers and music archivists dig through the record crates of the world, looking for that one artist to take center stage. Using a patent-pending algorithm and spirited debate, we pick one artist. Once that is settled, we invite that artist into Thunderlove Studio to chat with your hosts Keith R. Higgins and Jeff Calhoun. When we're lucky, they say yes. Our mission with Center Stage is simple: to make sure the recorded work of artists remains, or in some cases lands on, the cultural radar. We invite you to sit back and relax. Thank you for joining us.
Mr. Keith R. Higgins. Emphasis on the R. like a pirate. Welcome to a very, very important episode of Center Stage, whereupon we celebrate another one of my sacred bands. I will set this up with a narrative from my radio experience. We were charged with the task on the music staff of listening to all of the CDs that the record companies mailed us. And we would chart them and list how many seconds of music ran before the vocal came in. And anything that the record company was pushing as a single, we would put a star next to. And any standout tracks, we would put a star next to, telling the DJs that maybe were not familiar with the album, this is what's going to fit best on the air. My love for the band Chavez is such that I went through both of their albums, and every song on each of their full-length albums had at least 1 star. Some had 2 stars, and Keith, some even had 3. My affinity for this band is so deep that I want to get into the lore. I want to talk about why this is a band that when you read the comments on YouTube, you see people bowing as if it were an altar. It's a really important music group to a lot of people. Matador Records artist Chavez, we welcome on this week of the show, Clay Tarver.
Here's our conversation with Clay Tarver.
That's the one, yes.
Yes.
I confess a propensity to gush for this one, Clay. I've been a big fan for a long time. Let us start at the beginning, which for you musically is Bullet LaVolta, unless I'm mistaken and there's a band before Bullet LaVolta that people should know about.
No, definitely. They should not know about my 7th grade band.
Oh, please.
Called the Infuriators. But we were pretty mild, sort of just a cover band. But it was fun, and I learned a lot about how to turn my amp on and stuff like that. I grew up like playing music, and I went through the Suzuki method for a Yamaha. So, the Yamaha violin, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And then I moved on to cello and played in orchestras. So when I got to 7th grade and realized, I wanted to do rock stuff, it was actually pretty easy to translate to guitar, and but I played cello all the way through 10th grade, I think, and then yeah, that's all the music of any note, which is of no note, until LaVolta started in, I guess, 1987.
If the internet is to be believed, which sometimes it's not, everyone in that band met through college radio, that you were all disc jockeys.
Yes, we all went to Harvard. A bunch of us did, and I knew I wanted to play in a band, kind of. But I was from Texas. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and my older brother had really pretty solid, excellent taste. He was 6 years older than me. He was super into like the Kinks and Neil Young and the Rolling Stones, and but he was older, and I sort of knew I wanted to learn a little bit more about music, a lot more, and I did not know quite how to do that in San Antonio. And so when I went to college, I joined the radio station, and it was like this total immersion into what was going on. And the bass player named Bill Whalen, and eventual bass player, and I started, we met there at the radio station. I'm still friends with a bunch of people from that. This guy, Patrick Amory, who runs Matador now, he sort of, or was one of the guys that runs Matador. He ran the radio station with an iron fist. Yeah. And it was really great. And then another guitar player named Corey Brennan, who was older. He was a grad student. And he was amazing. He was like the tweediest classics grad student. He was now a professor at Rutgers. And he was a very tweedy, nerdly seeming guy who also played the most vulgar heavy metal guitar. And he was totally into that contrast. And so we started the band, I guess, 1987, which was my junior year. And it was super fun. And it was like, I don't know. We were close friends with the Lemonheads,
Okay.
who were starting sort of at the same time. They were a little ahead of us. And so we sort of took their playbook in Boston, which was to record a single. I don't know. We didn't even play a show. We went to the studio right away. So that's what they did. And so we were like, oh, we'll do that too. And it was just it was a really fun time for me because, playing on a Tuesday night at the Rat was like, the pinnacle I could imagine. And it was just, I don't know, it was super fun. Like our second show was us, the Lemonheads and the Blake Babies.
Wow.
On the Harvard campus. And I know it's a weird bill, but we were all just starting at the same time. So it was a really fun time to start your first band. At least that's what I say.
Cool.
Blake Babies, we had John P. Strom on the show and talked about a lot of that Boston scene coming up. One of the things about Bullet LaVolta, very punk, metal, aggressive. Ivy League is not how I would describe Bullet LaVolta. How do you get a bunch of Harvard kids together and make that sound?
It was literally our personalities. Like, I liked heavier stuff. The radio station, which is WHRB, was like this tremendous sort of, like, it was a really incredible place. And everyone knew everything about music. They used to do this thing at the end of the semester called orgies, which they would just play 4 hours of one band or their whole output. And when I joined the radio station, they did the history of punk rock, which I think was a full week.
Cool.
So just starting at the beginning from like Texas punk in the 60s, Texas, all the way through, every single track. I mean, it was really amazing. And I think I had a little more I don't know, slightly heavier taste because I just played guitar that way. And then we put a flyer out and got this singer named Yucky Guy, whose real name is Kurt Davis, who's the nicest guy on earth. And he was from Anderson, Indiana, and he was very punk rock, and it was just sort of a mix of our personalities and what we all liked. And we sort of were onto something because this was right about the time that I guess Green River was doing something sort of similar in Seattle, but in Boston, it never quite became like a whole movement, obviously, like Seattle did. But we were sort of, because of just the personalities of all of us, we were seen as I had long hair, and we were sort of a mix between, hard rock and punk rock, and we just put it together the way we wanted to, and we had fun, and we were actually a really exciting live band, in my humble opinion. So we had a great lead singer, and all of our stuff was pretty high energy and fun. So that's sort of where that came from. But I can't explain it. It was just sort of what we did, who we were.
I think you get that there's a very cool release from 2003. WBMR Radio released a compilation called Pipe Live Boston Rock, and it featured Mother's Day and Bloodstains from you guys, I guess, playing live on the air, and it's one of the most scorching live cuts I've ever heard.
Are you hiding there? Behind the trash compactor? Can I go out and play, Mom? Why do you burn me with cigarettes on Mother's Day?
That was the last song we ever wrote. And I think I wrote it. And it was like, we were a part of, like, it was a super confusing, fun, weird time because, like, the first few years were so fun. We ended up signing to Tang Records, just like the Lemonheads, and went through the whole, we recorded and put out our first record, and then we have both toured together in Europe in 1989, expecting 50 people at each show, and it was just sort of the time when American bands were starting to take off, and so it was like, Jesus, there were like 500 people. We only had 6 songs because we had an EP. And when we got to Berlin, like, the club we played was like totally sold out, and it was just super exciting. And then we came back to the States and really toured a bunch. It was this really cool time when indie rock was sort of bubbling under, and like, I just remember every club we would play in, like, Champaign, Illinois, or Iowa City. It would always be like this really killer lineup of people, like really interesting bands. People were weren't interested, and then we ended for various reasons. There started to be major labels started to sign up bands like Dinosaur, who we played with all the time. They got signed, and we didn't know if we would fit in at Tang the whole time, but we ended up signing to RCA, and this was all Nevermind and all that, and we would do things like I remember touring with Mudhoney, and it was like small clubs, and it was just so fun. Like, the music was really good, and no one really had a clear sort of career path. We were all just kind of just doing it and going with it as far as it would take us, just for fun. There was no real idea. And then once bands started to really blow up, or we played with Soundgarden, for example, and they really, you could tell they had their shit together on this level that we didn't. They really had their eyes on a prize. And then once once those types of bands really started selling records, things kind of changed, and it became a lot more, I don't want to say careerist, but it was really, people were shooting for something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, and I don't begrudge it. We didn't make the leap for a number of reasons, but our singer had a kid, and so it was just got too hard for him, and so we put out a record on RCA, and it didn't do that great, and then it was sort of a nice time to call it a day. I will say that I feel like, it's odd. We're not ever mentioned anywhere. We were right in the middle of all of it. It was weird. But on one of those, I think our last tour in the States, we were friends with Matt Sweeney, and he came on the road sort of to help out. I don't want to call him a roadie, but we ended up, because he wasn't, none of us were built for that, but he certainly wasn't, and we just had so much fun with him. And I had known him, and we just talked about music the whole time, so that when LaVolta called it a day, I basically called them and was like, we should start a band. We're interested sort of in the exact same kind of music, the same kind of thing. So I guess it was 1992. I moved down to New York, just started with them, the band that would become Chavez.
Is it true that you got the nudge to start Chavez with you and Matt doing karaoke?
Where'd you hear that? I went down to play with him before I moved, maybe. And we went to this place, I think it was, what's it called? Candy Beat One. It was incredible. It was on 9th Street. And it was a karaoke bar, but it was a live band that played of all sort of middle-aged, bald Japanese guys. And about 2/3 of them were like Japanese ballads that you never heard, but they would fully play rock stuff. It was $1 a song. It was incredible. It was too good to be true. And so it was sort of like, you and I, we got to do it. I think we tried to do some Simon & Garfunkel song or whatever. And I don't know why we thought we could do the harmonies. It was such a train wreck. I was like, what are we doing here? But anyway, yeah, I didn't know anyone knew that.
Indeed. You also have said that when you started Chavez, that you and Matt were very explicit about the sound, that you very much knew what you wanted to do when you started writing together.
We knew exactly. I always say it this way: we knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know how to do it. And both of us really were like good at, I think, pretty standard guitar playing, which is not actually being good. And we were just sort of shitty, straight up the middle guitar players. But we really wanted to do something else, and it took us a year to write a song that we really liked, and it's still probably my favorite Chavez song. But it's called Repeat the Ending. Took us forever to do it. And the weird thing was, if you'd asked us when we first started that year, what would we want to do, we would have said that. But it just took us forever. I mean, I literally had to unlearn how to play guitar. I had to fuck things up just to do something interesting. It wasn't like a pentatonic scale, you know? And so I, would drop tune my E string and, start to listen a little more and not just screw up my playing. And then when we finally wrote that song, we were like, that's it. That's what we're doing.
For anyone listening to this episode, if you're a big fan of the band and you have not seen the 2020 Gone Glimmering guitar tutorial with Sadie Dupuis, it's a must for any fan of the band, because you and Matt go through this essentially guitar lesson for fans of that record, and the two of you are saying to one another, I had no idea you played that.
We had no idea. And he was always like, when we did that, what we did, and this is what I mean when I say like I detuned stuff, like I tuned my low E string down to a B. And it was just a way to play intervals that I didn't know what I was doing, but I was listening, and so it would sound interesting, and I would follow how it sounded, as opposed to, you play enough straight guitar, it's just like your hand goes wherever. And so, I think for both of us, and I don't want to speak for him, it was really an exercise in listening a lot to what was going on. And so, our guitar parts for both of us were like how they melded together. And it wasn't until that thing that I realized, I was doing way harder parts than he was. And he was just like, what? I just do like this. And I'm stretching like 7 frets and wait, seriously? You just that? But it sounded like a thing. We were really into the band Come in that shimmery kind of the way guitars played off each other. And look, I've never played in a band where it was a 3-piece or something. It's so much more fun to play with another guitar player, and you're just not in control of what's going on. So it always sounds better. But I think it was good that he didn't play hard shit because he had to sing too.
Fair point. Fair point. It's one of the things that you see in the YouTube comments. If you watch old live recordings or the official videos, you see guitar players in the comments of those videos saying, I play the way I play because of the dual guitar interplay between these two gentlemen and the men of Chavez. You talk in that video with Sadie about the song Break Up Your Band and how there's a big string bend in Break Up Your Band that you said, well, I was just trying to hit the lowest note and the highest note that I could to create some dynamic tension there.
I think that was a pentagram ring, actually.
Oh, was it pentagram ring? Was that something that you and Matt talked about when you said, okay, we want to do something, our intent is to be angular and our intent is to create sounds that are maybe occasionally dissonant. How intentional was it all?
Entirely intentional. We wanted to do do the shimmering stuff from Come, but also the angular stuff from the Jesus Lizard, and yet write songs with melodies. We wanted to play with all of those. And early on, we really, I think in that thing, if I remember, it was during the pandemic, so everyone was insane. We really, I think I said something which I don't remember, which sucks because it sounded really cool when he told me it. But it was like we wanted to do songs where there was tension and release and, a weird turn in the middle and building tension and then a massive release. And we wanted to do that. And all the stuff that, was emotional and yet angular and really playing with guitar stuff as much as we could. And it was really, that's just what we wanted to do. And so that's why it's so hard to finally do it. But it was entirely intentional. We really wanted dramatic moves and dynamics. And I know I'm just spitting out words that every band says, but it was we really wanted to go as hard as we could in that, but also kind of, this is going to sound very pretentious, but sort of tell an emotional story in each song. And so we always bristled when people felt like, we were cold or, like we could talk about the term math rock at some point, but we felt like all shit was always emotional and made perfect sense to us. And I will say that when people heard it, we were met with a lot of head scratching. But for us, it made perfect sense.
Tell me about the notion of an earned payoff, and how did the drumming of Mr. James Lowe help you achieve that?
Well, James is the best drummer in the world. He's the coolest, most lovely dude ever, smartest person, most interesting guy I could ever know. And we just loved his drumming so much that we would really, really try to clear out. We would write songs to hear him play drums. And so, he had this crazy gift for this bombastic, explosive stuff. And so we would literally, do stuff so that he would shine and do that thing that made us, the hairs on the back of our necks stand up. And we have a song, which I think is called Peeled Out Too Late, that the working title was featuring James Lowe. Purely to try to create this like hum in the world so that he could do what he does. And so, I mean, I still am kind of like in awe of him, and because I've heard of him for a really long time because he was in Live Skull. It was a huge deal when he left Live Skull. He was always known as the Chinese drummer who had rototoms, and he was just such a interesting, fascinating dude. And so he was like, you know, he was such an interesting guy, and his playing was like, you know, incredible. And so that was what we, you know, when I finally met him, I just couldn't find a nicer person. So he's nice.
I agree. I've always wondered the lyric, "Let all the drummers come and meet the champion." I wonder if you're pointing back to the drum kit in the band and saying that's the champion back there.
Of course. He was just so dynamic and like exciting, and he didn't play like anyone else. And so it's weird for, I guess, a couple of guitar players to be like really trying to gear everything towards, you know, as much as we could towards him, but we really did want to. And he also sort of had an interesting, you know, he was a no-wave guy, and he's a true artist to this day. And so it was always our, you know, the whole point of the band for Matt and I, once he joined, quickly became sort of playing with him.
That's amazing. Did Break Up Your Band being featured on Beavis and Butthead have any kind of impact on your group?
It had a weird impact on my life, but it was funny because, you know, years later, I worked with Mike Judge in my other life, and I had worked briefly, not briefly, I worked at MTV. When I moved down, I got a job there because I needed to have a day job while we were figuring out the band. And when we appeared on Beavis and Butthead, I sort of felt itchy about it because I assumed MTV had put their thumbs on the scale, or somebody was like, "Oh, we should get the guy who did that other thing. He has a band, why don't you put it?" And then years later, I never met Mike Judge there, even though we worked on the same floor. But years later, I met him because I became a screenwriter. And I said, "Oh man, you know, we were on Beavis and Butthead, Chavez was, and he just liked the video. He didn't know. Maybe he knew, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, that's certainly why, at least what he told me, I didn't know. That he just was a fan of the video. He thought it was so weird and really liked the song, and so he put it on. And I haven't seen it in a while. I feel like maybe I conflated something, or maybe I didn't, but I just remember him say, maybe you can tell me it was true. I know how to pick up chicks at this concert. Say I'm not with the band.
And now I give you the men of Chavez.
That dude was kind of funny. Yeah. Yeah, he kind of was. What is this, anyways? I don't know, some kind of show? Yeah, this is kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, it's like, the music is horrible, but it rules. Yeah, we should watch this all the time. Yeah, this rules. I bet you could score with some of those chicks in the audience by just going up to them and saying, "Hey, baby, I'm not in the band." Yeah, it's like all you'd have to do is say, I have nothing to do with these guys. I want to make out. Yeah, we'll roll. Yeah.
Which is the highest form of compliment. So, and so when we worked together, it was really funny. And it was like one of those things where I sort of was like, oh yeah, someone pulled an inside job. But it was like, no, I really liked it.
Gone Glimmering was that first full-length record, followed by the Pentagram Ring EP. Were the non-album tracks on the Pentagram Ring EP a part of that recording session? Was it all sort of the Gone Glimmering era, or was it a separate recording session and kind of a separate batch of songs?
We were crazy about quality control. And which in retrospect, I guess I'm quite happy about. But like there was a song called You Faded that was on that, I think. And it was like, and so we were like, I don't know, that may not make the cut. And when I listen to it now, it's like one of my favorite songs we ever did. I feel like Matt and I really together, and I say this with all respect because he's moved on to be such a great songwriter. And I'd always I wrote a lot of the, I would humbly say the key stuff in my first band, but for this, we really taught each other how to write songs. Like, I think we taught each other a big chunk of it. And it was, without sounding like a total asshole, we were really into the craft of it. And we were really not because we thought it'd be great to get into songwriting craftsmanship, but everything felt kind of high stakes because I was in LaVolta, which I'll just say again, was a much bigger deal than history seems to in college. And that was in this band Skunk that was on Twin Tone and sort of similar thing. And James was in Live Skull. And we felt this weird, we ducked under and were in the gestate phase just when the alternative nation thing was blowing up and all the friends we had that were in bands were like fucking famous. And we were these two, guys in a rehearsal space in the Lower East Side working for a year. And so, I don't know, I felt like we sort of taught each other how to do that stuff. And part of it was like, if a part got boring or overstayed its welcome, we would we were pretty ruthless about editing, and we were really ruthless about quality control. And it's weird. It was just like that was a song where I was like, what were we thinking? That's a really good song.
As a member of a band that constantly kicks the tires on which Chavez song are we going to cover, the Pentagram Ring EP comes up all the time as some of your best, if not your best material.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. What is on it? It was sort of we had a single which was Break Up Your Band, I think Hack the Sides Away, and then did they put those on the
Hack the Sides Away was on there, and to this day, Hack the Sides Away is one of my all-time faves. Incredible song.
like that's one where we may have walked the line from angular to harsh. But it was like, let's make a really tense, harsh riff and then have it like settle into something. And I don't know. That was the whole thing. I think you said something about just like tension release, and then like, and that was like a good example of something that was really, that was a song that really was represented.
Keith, it's no secret. I have divulged on our show before that I partook in college in some materials that enhance the listening experience.
Yes, that is true. Just in college, though.
Just in college. I remember the week that Ride the Fader came out. It was the same week that The Plug had come through with some mescaline. And Clay, buddy, let me tell you, when everybody was seated and comfortable and we were ready for launch, the opening track with Top Pocket Man starting with that fucking roller coaster chain going click, 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 click. And like you instantly know I'm on a roller coaster and I'm headed up. And the moment the music starts, you hear the roller coaster go over the edge. What an unbelievable experience that was, to the extent that at the end of the record, everybody in the room said, "Play it again." And I think we listened to Ride the Fader something like 7 times in a row.
I don't know what to say. Thank you or I'm sorry.
Well, thank you right now, but you may say I'm sorry when I'm done. So, Keith, I don't want to sound like a Tool fan. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
But there are some. It's a very self-referential album, and there are some really, really intentional transitions. And I'm gonna do some math here. On track 3, which is Unreal Is Here, you foreshadow music that you're going to hear on track 5. You end Unreal Is Here with the xylophone part from Tied Around the Jaws. In track 6, you both foreshadow and refer to the past. So in track 6, you end the song referencing a mix of an isolated track from song 4 and I'm not sure if it's the drums or the pinch harmonic from You Must Be Stopped, track 12. This whole album is layered. Like it's the equivalent of the movie Primer for me. Like this is a time travel album that you're like, wait a minute, that hasn't happened yet, has it? Like this is my 4th time listening to this shit. That's from track 12, but we're on track 6. It's incredibly layered. It's incredibly dense. It all feels very intentional, but some of the comments that you and Matt have made over the years, not an easy record to make. You spent lots of time in the studio with Bryce Goggin, and only 2 of those tracks ended up on the record. Tell me about putting together Ride the Fader.
Okay, so it sort of started with the first record on Glimmering, and we decided to I think Matt and I had bad experiences where, like, when you do a record with one producer, you sort of set up a little bit of a conveyor belt kind of thing where you set up the drum sounds for the record, and you set up the guitar sounds for the record, and you make tweaks and stuff. And then you mix it all together. And I can't remember if it was me or him, but we sort of noticed that, like, some producers, there's no right way to do anything. And some producers just have a good handle on certain songs, and they just get it. You don't have to fight to find it. They just naturally, it's easy for them. And they're great on some stuff, and like they don't quite get it on another one, or it's just a bad day when you do. And so what we decided to do was like record it over 3 different weekend sessions where we would record 3 or 4 songs with one guy with one approach, and then see what came out good, and do 3 or 4 songs with another person. Maybe if the first one we weren't quite happy with something we did or whatever they did, just whatever happened on the day, we'd just do that something again with the second guy. And then we did it with 3 different guys, which was Bob Weston, Bryce, and John and Yellow. And that way we would have like different songs with different approaches, and it was actually a really cool way to do it. And which was, it's not like we invented something crazy, but that was something I think we always wanted to do. And then when it came to the second record, we were really happy with Bryce. He was like, he was a funny sort of mad scientist who would just like get into it. And I think it was a hard record to make. It wasn't that hard, but it was like, the first record we had written everything, and so we knew it was. I was in this again pretentious. Sorry if everyone has to hear this, but it was like, I feel like a first record, you're like, this is our manifesto. This is what the band's about. This is what we're gonna do. And then, of course, you have to loosen up or go in a different direction for the second one, and it's kind of scary because you just don't know where to go from there. And we were so controlled about the first one that the second one was like, we just didn't have everything figured out. And then I don't know what it was with Bryce. He had really blown up as a producer, No, I love him. It was just a time where I think we kind of butted heads a little bit, and then he had a hard out, and we just didn't get everything we wanted, and we had to sort of switch gears, and Yellow was around, and then Yellow's like, the loveliest human. So is Bryce. I mean, but it felt like pressure because Bryce had to split, and then when we didn't finish stuff, we sort of, when we went in Yellow, we just sort of, like, we took a second chance on a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't like some big failure. It was just like whatever happened. I don't think it was a pleasant experience for Matt, and we felt like we spent a lot of money that we didn't want to spend, but in a way, everything kind of, it was good. We didn't have everything planned out, and it took us to slightly different, mellower places on the record. And like the song Flight 96, I remember James was really mad at us because, by the way, I said all that nice stuff about James, but he gets really mad at us. And but we didn't have it down. We just didn't. It wasn't ready, and I was like, let's just do it. And he was not pleased with my positive mental attitude. And we just sort of lucked out that we pulled it off. And, it's a weird song. And but it was like we were riding that edge of just not being totally together. And I actually think at first we were like, is this a little too half-assed or not quite finished? But I actually think it was sort of just what we needed.
Settle something for me in that song in Flight 96. The internet says if the glove from above could seep through. I always heard glow. Is it glove or glow?
I have no idea. I'm one of these weird people that I love good lyrics when I hear them, but I just hear everything phonetically. It's just like another instrument. So I think it's glow, probably.
I'm gonna message Sweeney.
You don't want the answer to that. So, and you were also talking about, do you want the answer about all the interstitial stuff, or should I?
Absolutely, yes.
James Lowe is an amazing, he does sound design, which is actually composing for modern dance pieces, and a lot of it is found sound. And he's a Bessie Award winner. He's like, why am I kissing James's ass so bad today? I just love that guy, and I'm just gonna kiss his ass. I don't care who hears it. But Matt and I, we wanted something that was kind of, our initial concept was, we were this practice space on Stanton and Attorney, and we would play songs, and every time we would finish, you would hear the band next door through the wall, and we were actually thinking maybe we could record that because that was great. There was this metal band called Crisis that was next to us, which we would only refer to as Crisis, and they were actually really good. And so it just became like, well, maybe we could do stuff in between. And then James does this kind of stuff, so we just gave him the tapes, the 24-track stuff, I think, and just said, do whatever you want. And he had recorded all of it. So my favorite one is the fireworks one, because it's super cool, because he was doing a recording of fireworks because of the way people would react before the sound of the fireworks would come. And then we did a nice edit into, I can't remember the name of the song, Nail for the Blank Spot, maybe? Mm-hmm. And it just fit really well. And so anyway, James came up with all that stuff. So we recorded the record, then he fiddled around with it. And Matt and I were like, whatever you want to do. And it ended up being like perfect. So, because James is the best.
It's amazing. And to start the record off with the roller coaster track, And then as the record concludes, whatever found sound he used, I think, is somebody in a bathtub.
No,
Is it a rowboat?
Going
Okay.
through I think in like Thailand or something.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing.
It's very calm.
Yeah.
It's very...
And that was like, that's what I mean. We sort of, you guys are asking me all these questions about this stuff, so I get self-conscious about being too self-referential about this shit, but this is the time for it, right? But I liked that it gave us a mood which was very important to us, and it sort of cut. He was, in some ways, kind of making fun of it too, in a good way, and I think there was one where I think he actually, at the end, we finish our last song and there's crickets, which is a little bit of a play on, like we would play these songs. When we started, when we were playing, I'm not kidding when I say we were met with people scratching their heads. I mean, it was not an overwhelming response of people like, this is great, ever. And so we used to always have it, as everyone does, joke about crickets, and I think he put that into the literal thing. But he was, he's the best human of all time, was James Blake.
Best drummer and best human? I mean, we're setting the bar very high.
Matt and I are down here. He's with it.
Obviously, you are the architect of a lot of the riffs. How much lyric writing did you do for the band, Clay?
I wrote one. I wrote Ever Oversight. I think that's the name of it. I wrote those. More last minute than I wished. James saw me writing them last minute, and he was kind of pissed because he wrote the music about that. But Matt has a creative method, which is lyrics and some vocals kind of happen last night before kind of thing, which is a totally valid creative method. And so I would sort of look over the lyrics because I'm a control freak. Yeah. Like right before he was singing them, and I would make sure, I would get little notes here and there. But again, it's funny because I'm a writer, and I do now, and I guess I like good lyrics, but I really don't hear them. So once he had something to sing, I just never listened to them. I don't even know what they are. It's funny. I've always been that way. It's just a weird thing. And so I always feel like with good lyrics, for me, whenever they punch through and there's something memorable or conjures an image that feels right, then that's great. I mean, I think they're amazing storytellers. I've always loved Neil Young's lyrics for some, I don't know why those really stick with me. But when lyrics really fit the song, I love that. And so I feel like Matt's, like, Unreal is here. I don't even know what the lyrics are, but they just feel right to me. So that's my
Agreed. Tell me about the Schoolhouse Rocks compilation and your take on Little 12 Toes.
I don't know what we were thinking.
On each hand, he'd also have 12 toes, or so the theory goes. Well, with 12 fingers, he probably would have invented 2 more digits when he invented his number system. Then, if he'd saved a 0 for the end, he could count and multiply by 12s just as easily as you and I do by 10s. probably count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, deck, L, do. Deck and L being two entirely new signs, meaning 10 and 11, single digits. And his 12 do would have been written 1, 0. Get it? That'd be swell to multiply by 12.
Hey, the 12 toes, I hope you're well. Must be some far-flung planet where you dwell. If we were together, you could be my cousin. Out here we call them a dozen.
Our friend Jackie Ferry, who passed away in the fall, I think, and she's a very close friend for all of us. She, for some reason, I can't remember how, but she was in charge of putting together, it was the day of like compilations, like that sort of stunt compilations. And look, I'm of a certain age. I always thought the Schoolhouse Rock stuff was amazing. And I really feel like she asked us to do it, and Bryce did that. It was great. And I'm not saying we got first choice because, we were sort of the pity inclusion in the whole thing, like the obligatory friends, like slide us in. But we also picked the most obscure, weird, not singable song. And I feel like that was a good opportunity, probably in retrospect, to do a singable song, which would have been nice. But we did it anyway, and I really like it. But it's like that's really great production from Bryce. Actually, I really love what he did with that, and it was like a day, I think, it was maybe 2 days, but. So we did that, and it was actually, I think it actually sold pretty well. But the big bands got to do the choice tracks. We were just like, no one wants to do 12 toes. Let's do it. It felt like kind of appropriate for whatever the fuck we were doing.
So that's 1996. Almost 20 years. Well, I guess 07. Yeah, 21 years go by. And then Cockfighters comes out.
Mm-hmm.
What, after 20 years of not being Chavez, what got the four of you back into that creative mode again?
Well, we had always played. How do I put this? We really believed in what we were doing. Like we really, and I don't mean that like everyone believes in what they're doing at the time, but we I don't know. We really wanted to make music that we felt good about, not forever, but I guess forever. I don't know. It was really important to us. And we had been in other bands and done all this stuff, and we were like, we're going to do this. We want to do really, truly what we want to do. And at a certain point, I know this sounds weird, but we just weren't making any kind of impact. And I had certainly been in LaVolta, and I think it was true of Matt Skunk, that we were really grinding it out, trying to do whatever we could to help, push the thing forward. And I don't know, we hit this point where it just felt like we came around at a weird time, and I don't know, we just were like, at a certain point, we're just like, let's just do what we want to do and not do what we don't want to do. It doesn't seem to have any impact on anything. And we kind of drifted off and doing different stuff, but we always remained friends. And we would get more weird gigs here and there, and we would all sort of get in touch with each other. You want to play it? Sure, that would be fine. So we never, like Matt went and did Swan and stuff for a couple of years we didn't play, but like we ended up doing these cool. We did Ultimaris parties. We did this thing in Las Vegas for Matador, and we just always enjoyed it, you know. And I think we did really well at the Las Vegas show. Guitar Wolf played, and then we played. But I always felt like we were kind of the first band. So nobody knew what the fuck that thing was going to be, and we went over pretty well, and sort of everyone relaxed and had fun. It was a really nice night for us. And then and we had all these songs that we had never actually gotten around to recording, and those were really important to me. And so I pushed really hard to do that. And then, it's embarrassing, but I don't remember. There's a Middle Eastern sounding, I don't remember song titles either, but there's an off-time really Middle Eastern sounding song on it. I think it's the first one. And that was the last practice we had when we wrote that. And I really still love that song, even though I don't know the name of it. But I just, you know, I probably pushed everyone too hard to do it, but I just wanted to get a couple of those songs out that we had recorded on just a cassette tape that I thought was some of the awesome stuff we'd ever, I just loved them. And so we pushed to get that out. I pushed everyone to like get back in the studio again to just sort of like someday I'm gonna die, but to get these songs to, you know, see the light of day. And so that's why we did it. And I think that's a weird thing about like, I don't know. I mean it when I say if you were inside a band, we sort of felt like nobody really cared or got it. And then the less we played, people were very kind to us. And so, like these shows I'm talking about that we played were like really huge shows. The last show we ever played was a Pitchfork Festival. It was like gigantic. And we played this, we were like way too high. But we always just had so much fun, you know, and so it's a weird thing to like. I talked to Josh Homme once about it because I was a huge Caius fan, and I was always like, "What, you know? Would you ever, you know, do that?" And I don't think I said, "Hey, will you guys get back together?" But I sort of hinted around that. He made a joke that like, "Don't ever finger fuck your legacy," which I thought was pretty great. And you know, I have like, I think if we had remained kind of this mysterious thing, you know, maybe that people would, I don't know, some mystique would have stayed. But you know, we just kind of didn't care. We were just like doing whatever we wanted to do. And Matt has turned out to be such an amazing force in music, and her quartet is so lovely and great and interesting. I don't think anyone's touching sort of how they're doing their whole thing. It's just super interesting, and I couldn't be prouder of him, and I couldn't be prouder of like what James is doing. And I haven't talked about Scott Marshall, who's, you know, I live in LA and see all the time, and I love him so much. And I'm so full of love tonight. Sorry, but he, first of all, incredibly good bass player, Scott Marshall, or really a secret weapon. But anyway, that EP sort of came about just because I really pushed to have it, you know, come out. I still really love those songs.
Me too. The Bully Boys, if you were to play any song off of Ride the Fader and Bully Boys back to back, it sounds like the next day. Mm-hmm. It sounds like Chavez.
when I say we did what we wanted to, it's just more like it was just so much the music I like. And Matt has gone on to have such a huge, deep body of work of so many different things. And I sort of ended up like, for me, Chavez was like, just, that's the guitar player I trust the most in the world. That's the drummer I love the most in the world. That's the bass player. And so, and not in a sad way. Although it might be sounding sad. No, these are just the guys I love. And so I kind of felt like, we did, I don't know, I'm trying to back off very quickly, but it was Clay Tarver kind of music. So that's why I just wanted it to come out before I died.
I'm going to get a little bit too inside baseball here and be that fan on the internet that anytime new Chavez music gets referenced, I feel like I message either you or Sweeney on Instagram and what's it going to take? What's it going to take? And I remember at one point Matt said to me, I think it's going to take James, and James is to the point in his career where the volume of playing rock and roll drums is not great for his ears, and he's not into it. At one point when that Cockfighters EP came out, you had said, you were on record as saying there's a whole album's worth of material indicating that there's unfinished Chavez music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of headphones we need to get to protect those beautiful ears of James's, but James, if you're listening, let's do this thing, man. We need that last album.
I wish. But that's what I mean about quality control. Like I think there's probably one song, I'm not going to tell you what it is, that we were like, ugh. And everything else we put our best foot forward, and it's according to us. And so, there's some stuff that people will not hear, but it's really good.
Yeah. It's the label Band's Band is one that no artist wants to get stuck with because it probably means that the paychecks weren't all that good. But you are a band's band. Almost to a letter, every guitar player that I admire will reference your band as influential in some kind of way.
Really? That's awesome. I've worked and I've had a crazy journey in my life. Honestly, when I look back at it, there's nothing. The work I'm most proud of as a person is the stuff we did in Chavez. Like I really do. I don't know. Like I said, and not because I think I deserve any. It's just the most, the closest to my heart and my aesthetic as a person is that music. And so, and maybe because I haven't played with other people like Matt has, it's a chapter in his life, in a really great body of work. But for me, it was sort of like that was a thing, and so it's nice. It means, again, I know it sounds weird, but we had very, very low expectations by the end of it, and it's super gratifying to have anyone even notice what you did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Sorry, a long fucking time ago, but that was also like a little bit of a goal of ours, which is we just wanted to do stuff that we felt great about.
Well, you've got a fan club in Alabama.
What do I sound like right now? I'm talking about how great my thing was.
You sound like somebody that had a really great experience making music with his friends.
Yes. Yes, I told Matt and I really tried to convince James to do it. I remember we got so drunk. It wasn't that long ago. And I just remember telling him, we're all going to die someday. Don't you want to play music with people who love you? And you know what? The world is a super weird place right now. You know, everything is hard. And I'm in a grateful mood about being able to do stuff with people I love. And so this is one of them.
Yeah. Well, your career after Chavez was certainly interesting. You went on to win many awards working on Silicon Valley. A lot of folks really love the shorts that you did with MTV a long time ago.
Years ago, we got him. He's a security guard. He got a brown clip-on tie. And 3 days later, I come walking in wearing brown pants, matches his tie. Irony, don't you think? It's like when Jimmy Moriarty punches you in the face, but, you know, although it breaks your nose, it really hurts his right hand. Yeah, it's like playing a $2 scratch-it lottery ticket and losing. Come back here. It's like rain on a rainy day. It's like going crazy when you're already nuts. Hey, get back in the window. Isn't that ironic? Don't you think? It's like meeting the girl of your dreams and finding out she's 5. When you believe in your heart of hearts that the moon is made of cheese, but when you look at cheese, you don't think it's the same stuff that makes up the moon. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Donald was my roommate at college, and he was a road manager, and he's an incredible actor, funniest human actor. But he got his first break while we were on tour, and he left and took all the contracts with it. And so we would go to the pay and have no idea what our guarantee was. Life has been a strange journey. I just had a meeting yesterday with somebody who was like sort of saying how my career has been, and I said, I'm not going to apologize for my journey. And he's like, nor should you.
We agree. Well, we're over an hour, Clay. Can't thank you enough for the time. I could probably ramble.
I feel ripped off.
I feel like people don't like the term.
Do you know where it came from?
I don't think I do. No.
My roommate, Dave Plyler, in New York, lived in a certain state of irony. Super funny guy, one of my best friends. Again, I'm full of love for all humanity tonight for some reason. But Matt, when I moved to New York, Matt and James were playing this band called Wider, W-I-D-E-R, which was Dave Reed's band, who's, again, everyone's wonderful, but he really is. And they were like this super angular, sort of way more metal, but super interesting. And as a joke, Dave was like, it's math rock. And we would listen, we would go see them, and they were fucking great, by the way. I loved them. And they would finish a song, and he would mind typing out on the calculator, was that a good song? And he would type it out. Yeah, that was a good song. And so it became this like joke and he would call us math rock. And we were just like, dude, no, please. And for a minute there, on the Wikipedia page, it's since been edited. On the Wikipedia page, they had a pull quote from Matt saying, it was Dave Plyler, and it was considered a diss at the time, and it was more just good fun. So, but I have to give a little bit of credit to my friend Dave Plyler. So I just wanted to submit that to the record.
I appreciate the context. Angular, yes. The interplay between you and Matt, I think sometimes bands have a great guitar player and a great lead player and a good rhythm player. I don't know that you and Matt, either one, are a lead or a rhythm player, and together it's something else, man. It's really special, and I think that's why you get labeled with that band's band, because guitar players get it. They appreciate the scarcity of that interplay and the dynamics that the two of you created together, what seemed to be pretty effortlessly.
No, there was effort. But to bring it back, I've never said this to anybody, and this is a deep pull, but that, remember I talked about that first song, Repeat the Ending? It's like the proudest moment of my whole musical career is that there's this giant tension builds, then a release from the chorus, and then it goes and it does it again, and then it goes into this big bridge, and then it goes into another bridge, and then it keeps going, in total climax into us both hitting the B string, the high B string. And that's my favorite moment of my entire musical career. And that, and just us hitting those notes in sort of a high drone with James playing drums. That to me is what it was all about. And I remember towards the end thinking, God damn it, I'm never going to get to feel that transition again, because it was the best. And whenever anyone talks about like song construction or any of that stuff, or guitar playing, or how to interplay, the fact that we did that coming together was sort of, I mean it when I say that, was the whole key to the whole thing. So that was our first song.
Again, a plea for more. I can't get enough of you and your band. It's incredible music. It's meant a lot to me for many moons. And I find the notion of ranking music silly, but for many, many moons, I would cite Chavez as my favorite band. So thank you for the song.
That's so sweet. Thank you for reaching out to me. And believe it or not, this does not happen often. And it's again, I will talk anyone's ear off about it.
We appreciate the stories and the time and music, Clay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
We'll see you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Many thanks to Clay for sharing his story with us.
This episode of Centre Stage was written and produced by Keith R. Higgins and Jeff Calhoun. The show was recorded at Thunderlove Studio, where it was engineered by
Daphne Morris,
with help from
Penetration,
edited by
Vic Titball,
with help from
Clem Fandango.
Our theme song is Cynical by Jaguar on Mars. You can stream Jaguar on Mars wherever you stream your favorite music. Grab a pencil. You heard a lot of songs in this episode. You heard Break Up Your Band by Chavez and Mother's Day by Bullet LaVolta. You also listened to the following songs by Chavez: Repeat the Ending, Pentagram Ring, You Faded, Hack the Sides Away, The Pocket Man, Little 12 Toes. And lastly, you heard the Bully Boys. Be sure to check out our show notes for links to their Bandcamp page. You can stream Bullet LaVolta and Chavez wherever you stream your favourite music. Please remember to support independent music.
Original music by Mike Pellegrino.
If you like what you've heard, please remember to subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps other people find the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Grazie.
Bailey Leaf,
Rob Janicki, Mike Pellegrino, Therina Vella,
S.W. Loudon,
Michael Janicki, Peyton Janicki.
This show's executive producer is Lulu McGillicuddy and is in the loving memory of
Lucas Thunderlow.
And now, until we meet again next time, I remain as always obediently yours.
Abandoned Albums is a production of Paw Print Media.